Hi, I want to tell you the story, and this is, I gotta do it quickly because I probably won't even have enough video to do it, on my son's case and how he was medically kidnapped. Um, November of 2021. So I'm going to give you a little background. My son has been severely autistic since he was 3 years old. We got him diagnosed when he was 3. He has been aggressive on and off, more as he's gotten older, and started having, as he was getting older, manic episodes and head pain. It's about 8 years ago. It's always on the right side. He causes inch-deep lesions that he hits, and he's got his arms, his hands are all scarred up from doing it because he goes into these bouts of pain that's very, very excruciating to him, and he says it hurts. We've had multiple psychiatric doctors and tell us it is sensory, that my son's lying. They don't say he's lying, but obviously if you're telling me that he's got sensory and is not having pain, then you're obviously calling him a liar. He asks me for help all the time. Are you a doctor, Mom? Can you get me help? So I've been fighting to get him help for a very long time with this pain in his head. And the multiple psychiatric issues and comorbid diagnoses that go along with it, because he has manic episodes. He laughs and he goes into a, he'll laugh and then he'll go into crying. I mean, just crying into laughter again. He starts hallucinating, seeing bees and Ronald McDonald. And I mean, these are just some of the things. Sometimes he throws up. He will sleep or he won't sleep all night long. And the medications do not work. And they dope him up on antipsychotics anyway. And they don't work. He has reactions to the antipsychotics because he has either that or it's tics because of what he's going through, but it's always after he takes these medications, he's having side effects to them. So I fought to try to keep him from his health from deteriorating because the medications are not working. So November 2021 is when he's been to the hospital multiple times for me to try to figure out, can you find something else, another way? He's in the home and he's in crisis. This was the time that I brought him in, and he was having what looked like seizure type things, uncontrollable movements, and the doctor, the only way he can travel, because he'll go into these almost like a seizure, and he will start to say, I'm going to break. He wants to break something, and he'll try to hit the windows or whatever. And we were having him transported with Xanax. Xanax would calm him. And that was like one of the only things. That's what alerts you to say, is there some kind of disorder going on here? Because when benzos work, you got to wonder if there's something else going on. Anyway, so he was on that. He was on a prescribed dose of Xanax. The doctor at Fairview Masonic, stopped that completely and said, we don't give benzos in the ER. And I said, well, you need to, because you can't stop that abruptly. She did. She put him in withdrawal, and when I came back, he had lesions and his face was all dry and he was just messed up. I said, get his stuff, we're going. We left. Little did I know, she would document a note that night that stated, we want to hold Mom accountable for medical neglect. She wanted to alert CPS. They put that in the system. So next time that we ended up in the hospital was end of March 2022. Ended up on the side of the road. Matthew had been going through these bouts of head pain, and he was in crisis. He was not doing well. We ended up on the side of the road. I couldn't move because he was aggressive again and hitting. And the only way, every time I would go, he would start hitting again. Had him transported to the wrong hospital, Fairview Southdale. That was the wrong hospital. I admit that. But I don't think any hospital would have mattered, because they had already documented they were coming after me. So he goes there, and then they're like, oh, well, he needs to go home. And I said, we need to figure out what's going on first. He can't come home like that. I should have took him and ran, but they found the chance, and they saw that documentation. And he had gotten aggressive that night, but they were trying to say that he was stable. he wasn't. So they ended up calling CPS and told me it's too late. He's going to be stuck here, and you can't see him. During that time, Fairview Southdale, which is the worst hospital ever, they ended up keeping him, doping him up on all kinds of antipsychotics. They had problems with him. They knew that he was going through hallucinations. He was going through manic episodes. He was going through the head pain. So during this time, they thought, we're going to take away mom's rights for visitation. I said, well, under what grounds? They're trying to say I caused my son's aggression. They're saying I caused my son's disability. Anyway, so they put it out to the judge. The judge said, no, well, we're not taking away mom's rights, but they can always put in a policy to stop mom. And that's what they did. They even documented in medical records, they were going to put a policy in there that I could not see him. They were going to make their own policy so I could not visit my child. They did that. They wouldn't even allow me video visits. Then they continued to let dad, and they started working on dad. And if you know anything about bringing the fathers or the other parent in, they will hype that parent up to be the significant parent. I'm the mom that's always taking care of his medical. I went to naturopathic doctors to other than AMA because they couldn't figure it out. They didn't know what was going on. So that's another thing they put in my petition. In my petition, they put that he was on illegal medical cannabis, which is not true. He was on a tincture that was actually helping the head pain. Number 2, they put in there that I abandoned him at the hospital. Didn't abandon him. Number 3 is that I was bringing him to the hospital on holidays and messing up their schedule for the nurses and just dropping him off and leaving him. Baloney. That doesn't happen. I'm not going to do that because I work for them. I work for my son. I'm a paid parent. I don't get paid if I bring him to the hospital. It's just ludicrous. So anyway, he's stuck in that hospital, and they're doing everything they can to make life hell. Parental alienation kicks into dad. They hype dad to be this person. And dad goes, okay, well, after a while, after 8 weeks of him being in there, they give custody over to dad. Okay, so my first visitation that I did have one visitation with Fairview Southdale. They set that visitation up, held me in the lobby, and went back to the visitation lady that was already back there with my son, and made it seem like I was late. I came in on time. I have all my evidence. Came in on time. My recorder went off when I was in there. Was there at time, on time. They said that I caused his aggression because he goes in and out of these all the time. We don't know when it's going to happen. It doesn't matter who you are. He's not mad at you. He goes in it just sporadically goes in and out and says, I want to break, and that they said I caused it because I took the phone away because he was going to break my phone, so I grabbed it. They said I wasn't supposed to have the phone and that they told me that. No, she told me specifically that I didn't have to put that phone in the locker, so I brought it in. So that's when they tried to take my visitation rights away. Anyway, so after that, he's in there for 8 weeks. After 7 weeks, the CPS worker comes into my son's space, and says that he tried to touch her. Okay, so first of all, you got a child that's in there, disabled, 7 weeks, in a room, and you can't understand that he may touch you or something. You need to learn autism. Okay, so then all of a sudden he becomes like, oh, they got to document this note that he did this and he did that. Then they come to me and say, you told me that, or you didn't tell me he had a sexual problem. He does have a sexual problem. He's just like any other 15-year-old going through puberty and is stuck in a room. They sent that to the judge in a public document that could have got him, and they put disgusting stuff in there, like he had a certain type. He's a teenage boy. A type, so the social worker was like, oh, he only liked me. I was just like, ugh, how disgusting is that? Anyway, so I reported her. I'm like, you can't go around documenting stuff like this. I went to the judge and I said, you better not do, I didn't say better not, but I told the attorney, I said, tell him, please do not put that in a document that would go out to the public. That is terrible. Okay, so I'm not trying to, it's just that they're making something out of nothing. This is a child. It's just like any other child. But they got to make them look worse. They documented false things in the medical records. They even said that too many antipsychotics was going to cause him to decline. If he started having those movements, they were ruling out neuroleptic malignant syndrome because he was making these jerky movements. And if he continued, he couldn't go on. He couldn't continue to be on them. They kept pushing the antipsychotics. When they kept pushing these antipsychotics, he started to lose his respiratory. So I'm going to go on to 8 weeks. 8 weeks, they said, we got to get him out of here. And that was at Fairview Southdale. They sent him to Dad's. Dad had temporary custody. He got workers to work with him. He had, I think, 2-on-1 care for him. But Dad was working as well. And Dad couldn't do it because he was going in and out of the pain in his head. Same thing that anybody that takes care of this child knows the complexity. I'm not doubting that my son is very complex and he needs help because he's got a medical condition that nobody will address. This is beyond autism, and he is in and out of these things sometimes nightly where he's running, he's banging his head, so they ended up sending, Dad couldn't, he started with the head thing, and Dad ended up calling me saying, I can't do it. I have to take him to the hospital. He's having pain in his head again. I said, don't take him to the hospital. Then I went, I did this. It was the same thing that happened to me. Anybody would. They didn't know. Even the DHS home he's in now took him to urgent care, and they wouldn't take him to the ER. But so Dad took him to Children's Hospital instead of, which wasn't any better. Children's Hospital held him, told Dad they were going to call CPS, and Dad was like, there's already a case. You can't call CPS because there's already a case out. And you're like, oh, they're literally, I had people, supervisors from the ER telling me that's what they told us to do. They told us to call CPS when kids come in, adolescents that are aggressive like this. And I said, you can't call abandonment on every parent that needs help. So Children's holds him. The whole time, Children's doing the same thing. Well, they gave me visitation rights, but I recorded every last one of those visitations because I had been so traumatized from Fairview Southdale. So traumatized from them. And they were doing the same thing. They documented when he came in, that he came in because he hit a camp counselor in the face. And it was like, he hasn't even been to camp. Nobody will let him in a camp. How are you going to document he hit a camp counselor? Nobody, he doesn't even have a camp. He hasn't been, they kicked him out of camp a long time ago. So I'm just saying, not kicked him out. They just won't let him go into camps with his severity. He's got some serious, even the schools that he went to, he couldn't go to private schools or the ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, because he was too severe to go to them. And he couldn't adhere to the regulations and the rules of Applied Behavior Analysis. They would document notes that stated he needs help. He needs to be worked up again. There's something going on. And nobody would do anything. Anyway, so he's in the hospital after months and months. They're trying daily to try to find a place to ship my son out of state. And I'm talking to him. I am so busy from this. I can't find a job because they took my job away. I used to be a paid parent, and they took that away when they took him in the hospital. I'm trying to fight these cases. I'm trying to get attorneys. I have no money. And they are like lying about, how, saying that he's doing this and he's doing that and he hit somebody. And, I don't know, maybe he has kicked people a few times. He wants to get the heck out of the hospital, obviously. So, but when I've been in the room, they made him gain 150 pounds. Fairview South, they made him gain about 40. I don't know, but from that point on in Children's, they continued to just let him eat and eat. And he gained 150 pounds. And then his respiratory system started going out because they kept giving him medications, antipsychotics that I didn't approve. They wouldn't call me and tell me about it. They just put him on medications and not tell me. They'd have medical meetings with executive staff at Children's, and I would call and say, I want to be a part of those meetings. And they would deny me and say, you cannot be a part of this. About my child and transferring my child out of state to Virginia, to Costa Rica, where his dad is from. They were like ready to transfer him out of my life. I said, you are not going to do that without a fight. You're not transferring my child. And daily. But they were going to do it anyway. They just couldn't find anything, and God shut the door on it. God said he's not leaving. So every day they continued to keep trying. Then they finally said, he's deteriorating. We can't keep him here anymore. And they knew, because I was reading all of the medical records every time. I would call them and I'd be like, okay, give me the next week. They knew me very well in medical records because I wasn't going to stop. And I'd read these records at night and I'd be up all night crying because I knew they were holding him down for up to 4 hours sometimes. And I would read that. And it would be like 3 hours and 50 minutes and he usually gets out of these quickly. He doesn't need to be held down for 4 hours in restraints. My last visitation that I had when they discharged him November 30th, I think it was, they knew it was my last visitation and they were going to try their hardest to do anything they could to hurt me again. The nurse, so my son got like he did again, and I said, it's okay, Matthew, you'll be all right. And then the visitation lady said, well, yeah, you caused it. I'm like, what? What did you say? She's like, oh, it's all right. I said, no, I don't cause his aggression. We all know this. He gets like that with the nurses. It's all in documentation. Why would you say a parent caused this? Oh, no, you don't. It's not your fault. I'm like, you just said it. And then the nurse is like, oh, we have to stop this because he's getting, and I said, I understand, but she can't, she didn't do this, Yeah, I got frustrated, but I wasn't like out of control and going to hurt. It was like, come on. So he found any way he could to call security. Little did he know, I was videotaping that whole night. This is the same nurse that said that I caused him to gain weight because I brought in all these fattening foods. I brought in like smart popcorn. I brought in low-fat soups. I brought in all this stuff that like sugar-free. And I had videoed that night that he documented that because I had a feeling, because we had just been to court. And I had a feeling he was going to lie. And it's the same guy, the same nurse that they were using him. They were using him to give them information. And we're talking St. Paul Children's executive staff. They were in on this, and they were about to open up a facility, an adolescent autism facility, or a facility to help relieve some, so they can try to look good. But they're involved in medical kidnappings, right? So anyway, so they discharged him, but they wouldn't let me. The dad called and said, I want you to be a part of this medical meeting because I don't want to be in this by myself. I said, I'm there. I'll be there. I have every right to be there. I'm part of my son's life. They haven't removed me yet. So I went down there and they denied me entrance into that hospital. Well, I was in the lobby, but they denied me entrance into that medical meeting. And then I talked to the social worker right afterwards. He loved it. Oh, she didn't get to come in the meeting. Right afterward, he answered the phone. I said, how are you going to keep me out of my son's meeting? Oh, well, this isn't about you. It's about my son. And it's medical, and I have every right to be in that meeting. Oh, well, no, it wasn't medical. I work in the medical field. I code discharges all the time. Okay, that is medical, and you are denying my rights. And he did it. And do you think they held that caseworker accountable? That social worker accountable? No, that's Hennepin County for you. Do you think they held that Rachel caseworker accountable? No, they didn't. Even though she sexualized my child. Not only that, my first visit at Children's Hospital, I forgot about that. They sexualized me, saying that my son was groping me. Groping. I hadn't seen my son or visited him for how long? And I come in there and I gave him a big hug. But you're going to sexualize that just to turn it in to the children's staff? So to try to make it look like it, just these people are disgusting. They're disgusting. So they sent that out to the judge too. They were trying to find anything they could to send out to the judge. This is medical kidnappings for you. They will find anything they can. So then, yeah, they turned that in, and they knew they couldn't take away my rights. And I had the social worker of the hospital wouldn't call me back. Nobody would call me back when I'd be like, how's my son? You know, they were supposed to call me twice a week. And they were like, she's calling all the time. I should be able to call as much as I want. I wasn't calling. I was calling my 2 times a week that I was supposed to. I said, let me give you the documentation of my calls. I have all of them. But they didn't care about that. They just wanted to take away my rights while they were holding medical meetings trying to transfer my son out of state, which didn't work. Then I was like, I was going to community meetings for CPS out here, doing whatever I could to shine the light on their corruption. So I would go to them and I'm like, you know what? Isn't there a home or something so you guys don't try to take my son away? I said, what about homes that they create for foster homes for these children? And that's how, when they got the idea, because of me, they decided, oh, we're going to try to get a home, a DHS home, and have him there. That's the only thing. Because they didn't have any other choice. There was nowhere to send this child. And Dad couldn't do it. But anyway, so that's what they did. They bargained with me. They persuaded me to sign a placement agreement, which would send him out there, but I would have custody. I could put in 20-day notice anytime I want. But if I do that, somebody from the county already told me CPS is going to be involved. So this is where I am now. I'm stuck. My son's at that home. He wants to come home. He has voiced his concerns over and over again. He's been traumatized. He's 300 pounds, maybe 250 now or something. But now they're saying he's got 3-on-1 care there. They supposedly created this home for him. And this is where we are. Supposedly, they do not report people, per somebody from the Autism Society or NAMI. They don't report parents anymore for bringing their child to the ER because they did that all too much. And they created at Fairview Masada, they created a ER room in the ambulance bay or something like that. But I wasn't quiet about this. I exposed everything because of all, and I have video, and it's going to come out. It's going to come out. I have all the evidence of their corruption. I've given it to them. I have reported all of the CPS workers, but they don't have license. So, because they don't have license, they aren't accountable. So, then you report the supervisor. They didn't do anything about that. So, I reported Fairview Southdale because Fairview Southdale took away my rights. They were corrupt. They set me up in the lobby. There's pending an on-site investigation that has not happened, and it's been years. I turned in the doctors that over-medicated my child. 2 of them got off scot-free. The other one is pending, supposedly. And she's the one that never called me, never told me. My son now has respiratory issues because of that, because she doped him up on so many medications. Corruption. And now I can't find an attorney. And I have so much evidence. I'm blacklisted. I have so much evidence against them. But nobody will take my case. This child deserves to come home and have care in his home. If DHS can do it and have 3-on-1 care with an occupational therapist and all that over there, they can do it in my house. Unfair. But that's life. Life is unfair, right? Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. I don't know. There's been other things, like I said, holding at Fairview Southdale, where the sexualizing, to this day, He's got autoimmune problems. That's where it came in, the medical kidnapping. They did not like me saying he may have PANS or PANDAS or autoimmune encephalitis. That right there will get you in a medical kidnapping. When you claim your child has a condition that's not AMA certified, American Medical Association certified or whatever, if you claim your child, they'll say you're trying to play doctor and, you're medically neglectful. Well, they had determined that back in November before my son was even taken. But I knew he needed help, and to this day, I'm going to try to get him help. He needs help. He is splitting his head open still. I can't believe he hasn't had a fracture yet. His hands are all scarred up from hitting. The back of his head, the hair doesn't grow back. And I put him on cannabis to stop that pain, and they came after me. I had to represent myself because all the attorneys went back to the prosecutor, and they wanted to put me on a case plan. They wanted to say, oh, be on a case plan, give up your medical decision making. Heck no, you're already killing my child. That's why I didn't do it, because later on, I'm going to come back and say, I never signed a case plan. I never signed a case plan for you to medicate and deteriorate my child. Never did. So there we are there. They did it anyway. They caused his decline, and now he's overweight, respiratory issues. He has raspy breathing. I don't know. And he wants to come home. Just ridiculous. Anyway, so that's it. I'm still looking at getting him back. He escaped out of the home twice through the window. A 300-pound boy escaped out of the window because they had to keep the window open because, well, not open, but they had to keep it unlocked because of fire hazards, supposedly. That right there really is weird. How are you going to tell me you got to keep a window open and then he can go wherever he wants because that's his rights? You're going to kill my child. Anyways, I have all the evidence that that of the corruption and everything that has happened and how they kept him from me. This is what they do to mothers. And parents end up giving up. And God, I got him back. I don't know if, I think they're just waiting for him to turn 18 so they can take total rights away. So unfair. All right, bye.